I'm standing here with my colleagues who have been in this fight. This is not the Cori show. This is a group of people who just love people and know that it's our work as humans, regardless of title, it's our work as humans to end human suffering, and then to fight against any place where we see the possible perpetuation of these resources that still don't know. When I call for for the people that are reaching out, when I call the phone number and I'm put on hold for 2 hours, that is a problem. And so I need to get back to my district to then do the work to help make sure that, because we can do this all day long, but if it doesn't filter out to the people that we're doing this for, I didn't accomplish much. We didn't accomplish much, or not enough. So I'm going to go home, but that does not mean that everything has to. If people want to stay and continue to be active out here, you are welcome. But I will morph it into, that's what a movement is. You move with whatever the change that's needed, and so we'll move with that. And like Representative Jones said, we have another fight coming up, and we want to be on the, we're already gearing up for that. And let me say, activists are in Congress, so let's be clear. Yeah, activists are in Congress. So expect for things to be different than what maybe people are used to. We don't have the same eyes, we don't have the same background or the same agenda as some others.
I think what the message here today is clear, is that everyday people can make a change. We can always demand better, and we can push ourselves to be better. And that should not be taboo in our democracy. But in addition, we want to make sure that we send out a very clear message that should and once we get a moratorium extension in place, we need governors and municipalities to get emergency rental assistance funds out. That is what the point of this moratorium is. It's to buy time. There's been $46 billion allocated by Congress to state and local governments, and those state and local governments, those governors and those municipalities need to get those funds out. But this is a huge victory for working families. This is a huge victory for the vulnerable, and it is a huge victory for the power of direct action and not taking no for an answer. They say nothing can get done when Congress is in recess, and just everyday people, this moment shows that nothing is impossible, and as they say, until it is done, as Mandela said as well. So, thank you. Everybody knew this was coming.
Yes.
We were sounding the alarm about this issue. The court order was not yesterday. The court order was not Monday. The court order was about a month ago. We had financial services hearings about it. Members were bringing alarm to the administration about it. There have been public statements about it, asking for all of us, White House and Congress, to move on this sooner. The fact that this statement came out just yesterday is unacceptable. It is unacceptable. I want to make that very clear, because the excuses that we've been hearing about it, I do not accept them. But secondly, what we have here, and we have members within our own caucus threatening to go on vacation and imperiling the lives of millions of people, is unacceptable. Is unacceptable. And so we need to make sure that we get this passed. We cannot leave town until we protect people's ability to stay in their homes. And we need to push on governors who have not been getting the emergency rental assistance out in time. There are some constituents there are some constituencies and municipalities that have been getting it out more effectively, others less effectively, but the fact of the matter is, states across the board, red and blue, have not been getting this money out. We have authorized a total of $46 billion in emergency rental assistance, and only $3 billion has gone out so far. No matter whose fault it is, The fact of the matter is that what was promised to people has not been given. And as long as those funds remain tied up in whatever elected officials of whatever party's hands, we cannot kick people out of there. There cannot be an eviction, there cannot be mass evictions right now.
I can't tell you how inspired I am and how much hope you give me for being here, that we can actually reverse this, do the right thing. You know, I've had the privilege of serving in this institution for many years, and one of the great memories I'll always have is serving with John Lewis, who always used to remind us that we have an obligation when we see something wrong to make it right. He used to tell us to take good trouble. Right? We're all making good trouble here today. And look, I'm ashamed that we have to be here today. And I want to thank Cori Bush for her leadership. She's amazing. For her people to vote to extend this eviction moratorium. I mean, look, this is, I don't know why this is controversial.
Right.
Thank you. Look, I wish the White House had gotten their shit together earlier.
Thank you!
Right? And so we have no choice but to mobilize and to get members of Congress to do the right thing. I get it. I don't expect any Republican votes. Shame on them.
Right.
But I expect every Democrat. What you're doing here is people are watching all over the country. I mean, last night, my daughter woke me up in the middle of the night to say she was FaceTiming with Ayanna Presley. Okay? I came down here this morning and still with Cori. Yeah. Then I was at home just now watching Columbo. I fell asleep. At midnight, they're routed again. So people are paying attention.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so we need to keep the price up.
Thank you.
Yeah. To come to us. We met yesterday at 8 in the morning to move this bill forward. And quite frankly, I thought we'd be able to get this done, quickly. But then we found out we didn't have the votes. And some of our own Democrats weren't going to be there for us. So we waited. We tried to figure out whether we could compromise and whether we could tweak this or tweak that. Well, long story short, it didn't get done. Well, that's unacceptable. We all need to come back to the rules committee. I will convene the rules committee in a nanosecond. Do we have the vote? Yeah. I used to have a history professor who used to end every class by saying the same thing. He used to say, the world will not get better on its own. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I took his class, I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. I do now. Nothing good happens unless like-minded people come together and demand that it happen. Yeah. I want you to know, I will be winning your back. You are on the right side of history. Woo! We're going to do this. One of the great members of this institution. I'm so proud of the campaign he ran. I'm so proud of how he's conducting himself in Congress. A wonderful, wonderful representative.
Pouring rain. We couldn't sleep, rest, or heal from our trauma. We fought to protect people in cities like mine in St. Louis, where nearly 10,000 households have had evictions filed against them since the pandemic began. The moratorium extension we helped secure saved lives for 3 weeks before it was shamefully struck down by a partisan Supreme Court. Today, we return to the Capitol steps with renewed courage and determination to introduce life-saving legislation. The Keeping Renters Safe Act will protect renters from eviction and curb the spread of COVID-19. The bill clarifies that what we have long believed: the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services has permanent authority to implement a residential eviction moratorium to address public health crises. The bill directs HHS to implement an eviction moratorium for the duration of this COVID-19 pandemic, plus 60 days. The bill would implement a moratorium that would be automatic. People wouldn't have to apply for this protection. It would cover all residential eviction filings and proceedings, with exceptions only to protect the health and safety of others. The goal of the Keeping Renters Safe Act is to keep vulnerable tenants safe from further harm, especially while states and localities are working hard to distribute the nearly $40 billion left in the emergency rental assistance funds. I will never forget the fear that rushed through my body when I saw the eviction notice posted on my own door. The fear that comes with not knowing how I would be able to keep my children safe, keep a roof over our heads, or keep a job. I experienced violence and trauma all 3 times that I was evicted. I know firsthand what that disruption of peace feels like. And we think that disruption of peace only is about being subject to the environment, subject to the elements. But what happens once you find a home, once you're able to move into a place? People think, oh, you're fine now. But when I left my last home, when I was evicted, I couldn't take my furniture. I couldn't take things like the spatula. I couldn't take photo frames, and I couldn't take all the little things that I had purchased for my home. I don't have those things anymore. So now I have to start over. That is another disruption of peace, because I know when I move in, do I have a pillow? Do I have a blankets? Now I have to purchase all of those things over again. It's a disruption of your peace that continues on and on and on. It's trauma. So I will give my entire heart to ensure that nobody, not one more person has to go through that. I learned on the streets of Ferguson, you have to protect your neighbor, you protect your sibling, you protect even a complete stranger, because nobody is safe until we're all safe. It is imperative that legislators provide protection now, because we're being evicted. People are being evicted as we speak, as we stand here. People were evicted yesterday, weeks ago. People are having their wages garnished as a result of eviction. They are being forced to move into crowded shelters, double up with family, or live on the streets. These are circumstances that not only create instability, but significantly increase the chance of people contracting COVID-19. Your child's teacher, your nurse, or the person serving your food could be one of these at-risk tenants who is forced to inadvertently threaten the health and safety of the entire population. An eviction moratorium is the difference between life and death for all of us. So today, we are continuing our historic shift in the way that we conduct the people's business in Washington, D.C. If this legislation does not pass, there will be more than 670,000 flags on the lawn and more lives lost. My colleagues and I stand united in declaring that the Keeping Renters Safe Act is just passed legislation. It is just passed legislation. We must protect the millions of people who are at risk of losing their homes, their stability, and even their lives.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Cori, for your leadership, and thank everyone here today who is ready to stand up. We are in a COVID crisis. We are in an eviction crisis. And the eviction crisis is making the COVID crisis work. You know, this pandemic is not over. Families, millions of families across this country are worried about getting sick. They are worried about their next paycheck. They are worried about trying to catch up financially from weeks or months without a paycheck. This crisis falls hardest on Black and Brown families because they are more likely to be renters and because the entire COVID crisis has fallen more harshly on them. Now, Congress and President Biden worked hard to protect people from being thrown out of their homes. We did this because it is the right thing to do and it is the safe thing to do. But an extremist Supreme Court cut short eviction protections and put millions of people at risk for losing their homes. Forcing tens of thousands of people out of their homes will only make this public health crisis worse. As Delta surges, we must act. And that's why I am honored to be here with my partner, Cori Bush, and all of my partners here to support the Keeping Renters Safe Act. This will put in place an eviction moratorium during this pandemic and give authority to HHS in the future to deal with this kind of crisis if we have another health pandemic. Study after study suggests that moratoriums aid in reducing infections and death due to COVID-19, and that when moratorium evictions expire, there is an associated increase in COVID-19 and mortality. Right now, 7.7 million renters report being behind on their rent. That is nearly 14% of all adult renters. And people of color who have been hit hardest by this pandemic are disproportionately at risk. Nearly 1/4 of Black renters report being behind on rental payments. Now, last year, Congress worked together to account for that staggering reality. We believed that landlords should not have to bear this cost alone. So we provided more than $45 billion in emergency rental assistance. And that money is now getting into the hands of landlords around this country. It is helping families who lost a job get caught up on missed payments. But the money is going out too slowly. As of the end of August, nearly 90% of emergency rental assistance funds had not yet been distributed. There are still billions of dollars to distribute and millions of families who need that help to avoid losing their homes. But thanks to an extremist Supreme Court, evictions are now on the rise. We can avoid further exacerbating this crisis if Congress can step up now and pass legislation that keeps families in their homes through the duration of this emergency. Implementing a new eviction moratorium will save lives. It is time now for Congress to act. And I am deeply honored to be here with my longtime partner and the woman who speaks the love language of policy, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. Ayanna?
On evictions, yesterday afternoon, millions of American families were able to breathe a sigh of relief as the Biden administration announced an extension of the eviction moratorium that expired last month. According to the CDC, the new ban on evictions will apply for 60 days across regions of the country that are experiencing high levels of COVID infections. In total, roughly 90% of American renters, 90%, will be protected by this order. That is what the head of the CDC told me yesterday. There are so many individuals who helped make this happen. First, I applaud the President, President Biden, and the CDC for taking action to protect American families. I want to commend Speaker Pelosi. She and I worked closely together to get this done, from our first conversations with the President in the White House on Thursday on through the weekend and the beginning of this week. But I also want to recognize the amazing courage of my colleagues, including Representatives Ocasio-Cortez, Jones, and Gomez, and above all, Representative Cori Bush. Congresswoman Bush knows what it's like to be evicted. She knows the pain and fear and indignity of being told to get your things and to get out. When you lose your home, you lose everything. Hard to get to a job if you have it. What do the kids do about school? What if there's a local clinic taking care of somebody with a health care problem? You lose your home and that's it. The roof literally and figuratively falls in. Well, Congresswoman Bush has known this through her own experience, and she took her passion and converted it into effective action. A salute to her. It's a moment of history that shows when you persist, you can get things done. For 4 nights, she slept on the steps of the Capitol, drawing attention to this issue in a way we rarely see from a member of Congress. She made yesterday's announcement possible. So, amazing credit lies with Congresswoman Bush and the Americans who joined her in her righteous cause. And, of course, I want to give real credit as well to Senator Brown, our chairman of the Banking Committee, who worked hard on this issue, along with Senator Warren and many others in the Senate. Now, while yesterday's announcement by the CDC was very welcome, it's only the first step. In the weeks ahead, the administration must continue working with state governments to better distribute emergency rental assistance that Congress has appropriated at the end of the last year. The money is there. We in Congress provided it. I want to call out my state of New York, which has done a poor job at distributing this money. 2 weeks ago, along with housing advocates, I called on the state to move things more quickly. A week before that, New York State, along with South Carolina, were the only 2 states that had sent out no dollars. No dollars. Some of our localities that didn't cede the money to the state have done a better job, like Monroe County, where Rochester is, but too much of the money is just sitting up there in Albany. So we need Mike Hine, who's head of the relevant administrative department in the state, and all of the state to get that money out fast. An evictions ban is a good thing. It prevents people from being kicked out of their homes. But once the eviction ban ends, if there's not rental assistance, we're back in the same boat. So we need the states to get that money out. State governments, my state of New York, must do a better job of getting that support out the door into the hands of Americans who need help. And one other thing, there is not Treasury bureaucracy in the way. States like Texas, like Monroe County, have been able to get out a lot of the money. It's the fault lies in the state governments that are not doing this, and they got to move.